In the summer of 1992, 18-year-old Katie Rackliff was trying to move on with her life. Katie had recently broken up with her boyfriend. Like many teenagers after a painful breakup, she wanted a distraction. Something fun. Something loud enough to drown out the thoughts in her mind. Before we dive into the full story, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more gripping true crime stories that reveal that dark truth behind cold cases. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you never miss any story and stay on top of every development. I also want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me which country you are watching from. Your support keeps this channel alive. On the night of June 6, 1992, Katie went out with her friends to the Ragamuffin Nightclub in Camberley, Surrey. The group danced, laughed, and enjoyed the music well into the early hours of the morning. For a few hours, Katie seemed like any other teenager having a normal night out. But when the club finally closed and people began heading home, Katie started the short journey back. It was supposed to be a simple walk, but Katie never made it home. A short time later, her body was discovered in the streets of Farnborough, a nearby town about 3 miles away from the nightclub. The scene was horrific. Katie had been stabbed repeatedly. 27 separate wounds covered her body. Some of the knife blows had gone completely through her body. Her sexual organs had been mutilated, though there was no evidence that she had been sexually assaulted. The brutality of the attack shocked investigators. Police immediately assumed the killer had to be a man. The violence was extreme, aggressive, and relentless. Detectives focused their investigation on male suspects who had been near the nightclub that night. But the truth was something almost no one could imagine. Katie Rackliff had actually been murdered by Sharon Carr, and Sharon Carr was just 12 years old. For years, however, no one knew. The identity of Katie's killer remained a mystery. The case went cold. The investigation stalled. But 2 years later, something happened that would reopen the case in the most unexpected way. In June 1994, almost exactly 2 years after Katie's murder, Sharon Carr attacked again. This time, the target was a fellow pupil named Marie Clifford. Both girls attended Collingwood College Comprehensive School in Camberley. Sharon approached Marie with a simple request. She claimed she had lost a £1 coin in the school toilets and asked Marie to help her look for it. When Marie entered the bathroom and turned her back, Sharon pulled out a knife. Without warning, she stabbed her. The blade pierced through Marie's chest and caused severe damage to her lung. As Marie collapsed, Sharon stood over her. Witnesses later described something chilling. Sharon smiled. She casually tossed the knife from one hand to the other as the injured girl lay dying on the floor. Then suddenly, a group of girls entered the toilets. The moment was broken. A staff member was alerted immediately and emergency services were called. Miraculously, Marie survived the attack. But the trauma left deep scars, both physical and psychological. Sharon Carr was arrested and transferred to Bulwood Hall Young Offenders Institution in Hockley, Essex. Even then, police had no idea they were dealing with Katie Rackliff's killer. Inside the institution, Sharon's behavior continued to disturb staff. She didn't kill anyone there, but she frequently spoke about violence. At one point, she openly talked about wanting to murder another resident. She described how she would split their head open and break their neck. More disturbingly, Sharon began bragging about crimes she had already committed, including the murder of Katie Rackliff. Staff members overheard Sharon talking on the telephone to friends and family about the killing. She also wrote about it in her personal diaries. When authorities were informed, investigators began looking closely at her writings. What they discovered was chilling. Sharon's diaries contained detailed descriptions of Katie's death. They also revealed something else. She seemed to enjoy killing. In one entry she wrote, "I was born to be a murderer. Killing for me is a mass turn on, and it just makes me so high I never want to come down. Every night, I see the devil in my dreams. Sometimes even in my mirror. But I realize it is just me." When the press learned about these writings, they gave Sharon Carr a nickname that would follow her forever: the Devil's Daughter. Police began questioning her about Katie's murder. Sharon did not try to deny it. Instead, she openly confessed. In fact, she told investigators 3 different versions of what happened that night in 1992. In every version, however, the central detail remained the same. She repeatedly stabbed Katie. Sharon also claimed that 2 male accomplices helped abduct Katie before the murder. But when police investigated those claims, The two boys she named had solid alibis. They were eliminated from the investigation. Detectives believed Sharon had invented that part of the story. Despite the inconsistencies, investigators became convinced she was responsible. One reason was something only the killer could have known. During questioning, Sharon described a specific injury on Katie's body that had never been released to the public. She also mentioned a bracelet that had been stolen from Katie after the attack. Only the killer would have known that detail. Detective Sergeant Paul Clements later described his experience interviewing Sharon. He said speaking to her felt like talking to someone living in a completely different world. What disturbed him most was her coldness. Most suspects show some kind of emotion when discussing violent crimes. Fear, regret, anger. But Sharon showed none of it. There was a complete absence of feeling. Her 4-week trial began in March 1997 at Winchester Crown Court. Nearly 5 years after Katie Rackliff had been murdered, prosecutors presented Sharon's writings, diary entries, and confessions as key evidence. Some of her writings were extremely graphic. In one note she wrote, "I am a killer. Killing is my business. And business is good." Another entry described the moment of the murder in disturbing detail. She wrote about bringing the knife into Katie's chest again and again, about hearing her gasp for breath, about watching the life slowly leave her body. And she wrote something even more chilling. For years after the murder, a diary entry stated, "I bring the knife into her chest. Her eyes are closing. She is pleading with me, so I bring the knife to her again and again. I don't want to hurt her, but I need to do violence to her. I need to overcome her beauty, her serenity, her security. There I see her face when she died. I know she feels her life being slowly drawn from her, and I hear her gasp. I guess she was trying to breathe. The air stops in the back of her throat. I know all her life her breathing has worked, but it does not now. And I am joyful." The defense argued these writings were simply the fantasies of a deeply disturbed girl. But prosecutors argued they were something far more disturbing. They were memories. Memories of a crime she glorified. The jury did not take long to decide. Sharon Carr was found unanimously guilty of the murder of Katie Rackliff. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 12 years. Not long after the trial, Sharon was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a serious mental condition involving hallucinations, mood swings, and severe depression. Even today, more than 2 decades later, authorities still consider her a danger to the public. Sharon Carr currently resides at HMP Bronzefield, a female prison on the outskirts of Ashford in Middlesex. Given her unstable condition, it is believed she may remain there for the rest of her life. And the story becomes even more unsettling when you look at Sharon's early life. She was born in Belize in 1981 before moving to England with her family. Her childhood was troubled. Her father was reportedly a violent drunk and her mother had a severe temper. Her parents eventually separated, and Sharon was briefly placed in foster care before returning to live with her mother. At school, teachers initially described her as polite and helpful, but over time her behavior changed. She became disruptive, attention-seeking, and increasingly disturbing. By the age of 11, Sharon had started smoking cannabis. She also began killing animals in her neighborhood. Pets started disappearing. In one case, police discovered she had decapitated a neighbor's dog with a spade. There were even disturbing suggestions from acquaintances that she had fried live hamsters. But even these acts were not enough to satisfy her fascination with violence. At just 12 years old, Sharon Carr carried out one of the most shocking crimes in British criminal history. She randomly selected a young woman walking home from a nightclub and brutally murdered her. Katie Rackliff was only 18 years old. Her life had barely begun, and her killer was a child. Today, Sharon Carr still sits behind prison walls. Her case remains one of the most disturbing examples of juvenile murder ever recorded in the United Kingdom. And it raises a question that still unsettles investigators, psychologists, and the public. Was Sharon Carr simply a deeply disturbed child shaped by a violent upbringing? Or was something far darker already inside her long before that night in 1992? What do you think? Can someone truly be born a killer? Or are monsters created by the world around them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And forget to subscribe to this channel for more gripping true crime stories.